Foreign Land is about a young man coming home, and he's in a huge amount of kind of turmoil, coming back to his mum, who's full of expectations and hope. It's about everybody's expectations, really, about her expectations of how perfect life is going to be now he's home, and about his kind of cultural expectations of how he knows he feels and what he feels, what he understands in himself, and they're all very, very different.
Characteristic. It's such a character-based film instead of plot, which I think is what drew it to me. It's got a lot of depth. And I think for actors it's very testing and demanding, but it's also the most rewarding at the same time.
I think it's really interesting to see how so many of the stories and the bits kind of that come out of it are still very relevant to today, and like experiences that people are still having, and how with that set back in the 40s and how it's a very real relationship, and we're seeing these little flashes of personal moments between them, which is a really nice connections, and it has a lot of character to kind of flesh out the emotions of what's happening elsewhere in the story.
The thing I love about the pub scene is that you get a whole different spectrum of people in the pub. You get the soldier who does have PTSD, who sits in the corner drinking alone. You get the soldier who's with his girlfriend, a typical hero, a typical man. And then you've got Oscar in the middle, sort of, who feels alone and upset because he's by himself. And I think that's, I just don't think exploring these issues has never really been done through a war film.
Well, I wanted to take it in quite an intimate direction. I was inspired by many films, especially Jackie, and how they have a very kind of intimate grasp on the dialogue. And because some of the lines in this film are incredible, I really wanted to get that kind of close, kind of whispery kind of sense to the sound design.
Me and Sam went on a walk, and we saw a boat. And we had this idea of a guy coming off that boat. And that evolved into the idea of a guy coming back from war. And we settled on World War II, and we were trying to work out a reason for a deep internal struggle to be happening, because the best films are always about struggles. We settled on the idea that the lead character would be ashamed and scared, and we started to realise that in World War II it was very, very difficult to be an openly gay person, even more so incredibly difficult to be a closeted gay person. And we settled on the idea that coming back from the war, having run to war, was a very interesting concept.
So I'd receive the script from Sam, and then I would kind of go through highlighting it, writing down ideas, and then I'll meet up with Sam and Theo and kind of discuss ideas and maybe like potential problems, and then we would do lots of research, start collating mood boards and things, like bringing in my own kind of taste, and then look for props and costumes, and then that's where kind of Ben comes into it with seeing if it's right for the era, and then we'll go to locations, bring like the core crew, see if it's right for the film. And then it comes to shooting, put them in costume, dress the set. Yeah.
The whole thing has kind of been a challenge in terms of when it was first put together. It was a lot longer than what it needed to be. Obviously, it's a 10-minute film. Me and Sam kind of worked closely together to cut down so much time, but we've also managed to like reshuffle the whole story structure, because it wasn't really working in the way that it had been put together. So it was a challenge to kind of come up with a new story structure, which I think works a lot better.
I just think maybe that sense of honesty, it's really hard, parents and children and expectations of relationships and stuff. And I think if people can see the film and see that what we need is honesty with one another and acceptance, then you would hope that's what it's going to highlight for people to go away and think about.